was a chilly Friday night, and the dim glow of the streetlights formed long shadows on the quiet residential roads. I was by myself in my poorly lit apartment, going through my phone and debating if I should get takeaway for dinner. The room was silent except for the rumbling in my stomach. I had no idea that this seemingly insignificant choice would send me down a sinister and unpleasant path and permanently alter my viewpoint on the seemingly routine world of meal delivery. I quickly searched and decided on a Chinese restaurant in the area that was well known for its mouth-watering dumplings. I eagerly ordered a range of items from the menu because it had so many delicious selections. An estimated delivery time showed on the screen, and I got a confirmation message confirming my dinner was on its way as the clock hit midnight. I chose to watch a movie to pass the time because I was hungry and impatient. My excitement for the tasty treats rose as the thrilling story played out on screen, and the minutes slowly passed. My phone abruptly beeped to let me know that the delivery had arrived. I excitedly put the movie on hold, took out my wallet, and went to the door. A shiver ran down my spine as I opened the door, and I could almost hear a ghostly whisper. It was abnormally quiet in the neighborhood, almost as if time had stopped. I looked around the deserted street, but the delivery guy was nowhere to be seen. I dismissed the bad feeling, blaming it on my hunger imagination and the late hour. The faint sound of bicycle wheels groaning on pavement caught my attention as I was about to head back inside. I turned to face the sounds and noticed a man stepping out of the darkness. It was the delivery guy, dressed in a faded uniform that didn't look right in this day and age. The delivery person's face had an unpleasant glow on it due to the flickering dull light of the street lamp. The brim of a faded cap covered their eyes, and most of their features were hidden by a scarf that was wound tightly around their neck. I shrugged off the strange clothes, blaming it on the cold evening, and enthusiastically took the bag of food they gave me. A shudder went down my spine as I shut the door, but the hunger beat out the discomfort. The smell of freshly made food filled the room as I placed the bag on the table and opened the containers. I wolfed down the first dumpling, reveling in the explosion of taste and temporarily forgetting the weird experience at the door. But as I reached for the next dish, I felt something strange. There was an uncomfortable sense in the air. The atmosphere took on an exotic color, and the room seemed to have become colder. I made an effort to dismiss the discomfort by blaming it on my overactive imagination. I turned back to the food and found a small, insignificant note tucked in between the containers. Curious, I unfolded the paper to see a hurriedly written note encrypted with "Beware the fourth bite." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I looked around the room, half expecting someone to suddenly appear in front of me. I hesitated over the next taste, a mixture of fear and curiosity. I examined the note closely, doubting its veracity. Maybe it was a practical joke, a peculiar touch the restaurant employees added to give their delivery a little extra intrigue. Even though I wasn't sure what to expect, I felt a growing sense of anxiety that made every second more exciting than the last. I took a big breath, decided to follow the advice, and moved carefully forward. A strange uneasiness settled in the pit of my stomach as I neared the fourth bite. Despite the first three being a symphony of tastes, curiosity and hunger drove me on despite every instinct telling me to turn around. The fourth dumpling had a distinct feel. It was denser and heavier. My hand trembled as I feared to bring it closer to my mouth. An unsettling energy seemed to be pulsating through the room, and the tension in the air intensified. Ignoring my sense of dread, I took the fatal bite. I instantly felt a searing sensation go through my mouth, causing me to flinch in anguish. My mouth and throat were burned, as if the dumpling had changed into a scorching hot coal. I gripped my mouth, the agony growing worse by the moment. As soon as I knew something was seriously wrong, panic struck. I went for a glass of water in desperation for comfort, but as I swallowed it down, the pain got worse. My surroundings became indistinct, causing me to stagger back and topple a chair. My senses were assaulted by an odd feeling that made it seem like reality was falling apart. I grabbed for my phone in a fog of pain and bewilderment, hoping to call for assistance. To my dismay, however, a sequence of warped and flickering images appeared on the screen. An eerie murmur with inaudible words that sent shivers down my spine reverberated in the background as the room appeared to bend and twist. I staggered in the direction of the door, frantic to get out of the horror that was taking place in my apartment. The corridor extended on, with the walls enclosing me. The air grew colder, conveying an unfathomable chill that crept into my bones, and every stride felt like a lifetime. Reaching the building's exit, I was met with an odd sight. The once familiar surroundings had become a terrifying maze. Unusual shadows danced down the hallway as the walls pulsed with an unearthly brilliance. I was overcome with panic and ran down the hallway, my every step haunted by the echoing footsteps of someone I could not see. The corridor appeared to bend and twist with every step, making me even more lost. The murmurs became more audible, forming a cacophony of disconcerting voices that reverberated along the winding hallways. I came onto a row of closed doors, a chill running down my spine from each one's mysterious emblem. I opened one of the doors, drawn by some unknown power, and entered a strange world. Ethereal forms walked in the shadows, and an otherworldly mist hung heavy in the air. Their warped features twisted to face me, their eyes shining with a strange intensity. I staggered back, knowing I had ventured into unfathomable territory. I was stuck in a terrifying dreamscape where the lines between reality and a nightmare had become hazy. The murmurs became louder until they blended together into a deafening chorus of voices that didn't appear to speak human language. I went back through the winding hallways in a desperate attempt to get away, but every turn took me farther down into the bizarre chasm. The eerie voices continued to reverberate in my head, mocking and tormenting me for my hopeless attempts to escape. I saw flashes of my surroundings moving as I staggered across the weird landscape, a kaleidoscope of frightening sights that defied the laws of reality. A sinister energy seemed to pulse through the walls as faces twisted into hideous masks. I pushed ahead, determined to escape the nightmare world that engulfed me, driven by a basic urge to survive. The murmurs intensified, their words turning into a dizzying chorus that echoed through my entire body. A hallway abruptly emerged into a huge open area that was covered in a strange, glowing environment. A massive shadow-clad figure with eyes that could be seen through the darkness stood in the middle. An unearthly energy crackled in the air, and I sensed a force that was unseen drawing me in the direction of the mysterious object. The figure talked as I got closer, and I could feel the richness of her voice. "You ventured into the area where worlds collide," it murmured, its words bearing the weight of age-old knowledge. "Your hunger led you here, and now you must face the consequences." I cried out for escape, my voice resonating the phantom room. The figure did not budge, its gaze piercing right through to the core of my being. It said, "You have to choose if you want to get out of this world, and a choice that will determine your fate." The person held up two doors, each with a symbol for a different route. Whereas one door displayed a symbol of swirling darkness, the other exuded a pale, ghostly light. I had to make a decision that would determine how my life would turn out. I made the decision to go through the brightly illuminated door out of instinct, thinking it would take me back to the comfortable world I had left behind. The person nodded, and a dazzling light filled my senses as the door groaned open. The strange environment vanished as soon as I passed through and was replaced by my apartment's well-known surroundings. The eerie voices receded into the corners of my recollection as the whispers stopped. I discovered that I was at the edge, where the real world and the bad dream meet. The silence filled the room, the weight of my unexplained ordeal weighing heavily on the air. The message, a cryptic warning and a lingering reminder of what had happened that night, lay on the table. The feeling persisted in my mind that there was less separation between worlds than I had ever imagined, and that decisions we make, even seemingly insignificant ones like picking up takeout, may have unanticipated repercussions. I felt uneasy for a while after thinking back on the terrifying event. I kept thinking about the mysterious figure's declaration, the bizarre trip through the nightmare world, and the delivery man's ominous warning. The distinction between the extraordinary and the ordinary had become hazy, leading me to the terrifying understanding that there are many unanswered questions in the world, and that certain decisions have far-reaching effects. I thus couldn't help but ponder as I sat by myself in the dark apartment. Was it just a hallucination, the result of a hyperactive mind driven by hunger and anticipation? Had I really caught a glimpse of a world where decisions might alter life itself, or had I only imagined it? The answers were hidden in the mystery of that fateful night, and they escaped me. The feeling that the line separating worlds was thinner than I had ever thought, and that decisions we make, even seemingly insignificant ones like ordering pizza, may have unanticipated repercussions persisted until the first rays of morning burst through the darkness. The riddles of that night remained, a disturbing reminder that anything may happen to the ordinary in an instant, and that reality and fantasy are more hazy than we would like to think. Us, plagued by the icy uncertainty of the midnight delivery, I faced the dawn of a new day with a lingering sensation of disquiet. It was a stormy night, with rain falling like a torrent, when my stomach groaned in protest. My need for a warm, satisfying lunch brought me to my phone's glowing screen, where I made the decision to place an order from a well-known local pizzeria. I had no idea that this seemingly little choice would send me into a terrifying story, where the boundaries between the supernatural and reality would become hazy. The unrelenting downpour outside reflected the chaos that was growing inside of me as I anxiously anticipated my arrival. After the anticipated delivery time passed, I started to feel nervous. I looked at the app and saw that the status was still out for delivery. I put the delay down to bad weather, but something was bothering me. A notice popped up on my phone as I was about to brush off my worries. "Your order has been delivered." My forehead furrowed in confusion. I hadn't heard the usual knock on the door. Running to the door, I threw it open, hoping to see the pizzeria's well-known emblem. Rather, I encountered a disquieting void. Neither a warm pizza box nor a delivery person. I looked around the dimly lighted hallway, puzzled, but there was nothing to hear save the sound of the rain beating on the windows. I then happened to glance at a small message that was tucked in between the door and the frame. "The delivery you seek lies beyond the veil," was the message that shuddered down my spine as I pulled it out and unfolded the damp paper. Track the echoes of the vanished. I felt a wave of shock and anxiety pass through me. Was this a complex practical joke? The note seemed ethereal, the ink soaking into the paper like it had withstood the test of time. But something made me curious, pushing me to solve the puzzle of the mystery that had suddenly entered my life. I chose to follow the mysterious advice because I felt compelled to do so for some reason. Equipped with an umbrella, I set out into the unrelenting deluge, trailing the faint murmurs of the past. The sodden streets appeared abandoned, with shadows moving in the soft illumination of the intermittent lighting. I had never seen an alley until I followed the echoes as I made my way through the city's maze. There was something unnerving about the tight corridor, something dense with foreboding. Despite my hesitation, I continued forward, the constant rain dampening my footfall. Unnoticeable and out of place, I came upon a weathered door at the end of the lane. I pushed it open and the wood creaked, revealing a stairway that led down into the darkness. From below, a dim light glowed, creating warped shadows on the walls. It was a plunge into the unknown, a decision between going around and facing mystery that awaited. A mysterious curiosity pushing me down the stairs, the temperature dropping as I went. A hidden realm beneath the surface of the city was revealed by the feeble light at the end of the tunnel. Symbols that seemed to pulse with an alien vitality decorated the walls. The echoes grew louder and more menacing as I made my way through the maze-like passageways. It was as though long-forgotten voices from the past murmured secrets that broke through time's barriers. I couldn't get rid of the impression that I had entered a world unspoiled by time. The air was thick with the weight of an old mystery. The small passageway suddenly opened into a large chamber that was lit by a flickering light that seemed to come from somewhere else. A figure wearing a frayed robe and with shadows covering their face stood in the middle. An energy that appeared to defy the rules of physics crackled in the air. The figure's voice echoed around the room. "Seeker of the echoes, you have entered the realm of the phantom delivery. To unveil the truth, you must undergo a trial, a journey through the forgotten corridors of the spectral realm." Before my eyes, the chamber changed, the walls twisted into a strange, illogical scene. There were doorways everywhere, going to numerous unknown realms. The person gestured toward a shimmering doorway with a water-like surface ripple. "You have to walk through the halls of the past, present, and future." The figure said, "Your decisions will determine the path that unfolds before you," its words lingering in the atmosphere like a melancholy tune. I stepped through the portal with apprehension, entering a world where time itself appeared to bend and distort. The first hallway carried me back in time to a bygone age with cobblestone streets and shifting shadows created by gaslighting. Time had blurred the faces of the ghostly beings as they passed by. I saw glimpses of my own past as I descended farther, ephemeral moments that had vanished into the cracks of memory. Echoes whispered secrets and long-forgotten facts that had escaped my conscious awareness. It was a voyage down the halls of self-discovery, where every turn showed me a new piece of the puzzle that my decisions had created. Through the second corridor, I was thrown into the tumultuous fabric of the present, a place where the sounds of contemporary existence echoed off the walls. Both known and new faces drifted by in a mist, their histories mingled with the constantly changing tides of the present. The decisions I made in this world had unanticipated effects on the lives of others, causing ripples through the fabric of reality. The echoes told of journeys that diverged and then converged, of relationships made and broken. It served as a reminder that every decision, no matter how small at the time, has the ability to affect how life is interpreted. Anxiety and dread took hold of me as I got closer to the third corridor. Through the doorway, glimpses of an uncertain future were unveiled, with shadows dancing on the edge of what might have been. The echoes described decisions that needed to be taken in destiny that were entwined with the strings of fate. A hallway opened up into a world where the lines separating the real and the supernatural were less distinct. Both known and unknown faces peered into the unknowable future, the uncertainty in store for them. It was an exploration of the paths of potential and a peek at the rich tapestry of possibility. The apparition was waiting for me, its eyes glistening with the wisdom beyond this world. Traveling across the ages in search of the echoes, you have untangled the strands connecting the past, present, and future. You now have a decision to make that will determine your future. 3 doorways, each pointing in a different direction, were in front of me. There was a sense of urgency in the air, and the symbols on the doors pulsed with an alien force. The figure's words replayed in my head, pleading with me to make a prudent decision because it would determine the Phantom Delivery's destiny. Pushing through the doorways, each one a portal to an alternate reality, I approached them with a combination of terror and willpower. An antique key represented the first entryway, a swirling vortex the second, and an ethereal flame the third. Every symbol had a hidden meaning, an option that would dictate how my journey unfolded. I took a deep breath and grabbed for the door marked with the old key symbol. Once I stepped through the door, my surroundings changed once more. I was standing in a poorly lighted room with tall shelves crammed with antiquated objects and literature. The smell of ancient paper permeated the air, and the walls were long shadows cast by the flickering candlelight. An ethereal librarian with eyes glistening with unearthly insight stood before me. I felt drawn to explore the mysteries of the old realm by the whispering echoes of long-forgotten stories. During my exploration of the arcane library, I came upon a worn tome that appeared to be calling my name. Tales of the Phantom Delivery, a ghostly messenger who traveled the worlds carrying messages between the living and the dead, were revealed inside its pages. The whispers described a decision taken long ago, a deal that consigned the messenger to the afterlife. The old key represented the decision to discover the lost stories and accept the knowledge of the past. But as I dug farther into the enigmas of the old world, a feeling of loneliness overcame me. As each page flipped, the line between the living from the dead grew thinner, as the ghostly librarian observed from the shadows with eyes that silently warned against pursuing ancient knowledge. I turned around and walked back toward the second doorway, which was indicated by the whirling vortex, but with a heavy heart. The world spun around, and I was standing on the edge of a whirling abyss as soon as I went in. A symphony of voices discussing the interwoven ties that bind lives together echoed across the atmosphere, echoing the present. A maze of options extended in front of me, with each strand signifying a decision that had been taken or was still to be made. The decision to embrace the turmoil and unpredictability that characterized the fabric of contemporary existence, and to navigate the currents of it, was symbolized by the spinning vortex. I caught glimpses of times of love and loss, of joy and grief, as I navigated the web of strands. Faces, both known and unknown, came and went, their histories entwined with the ever-changing fabric of the present. The echoes warned that the present's currents could take one in unexpected directions, and hinted of the fine line that exists between choice and consequence. I became disoriented, though, as I accepted the turmoil of the moment. I felt as though the whirling vortex was drawing me in different directions, and the possibilities intertwined in an intricate dance. Lines between clarity and confusion blurred as the voices of the present echoed in a discordant symphony. I turned around again, feeling more and more pressed for time, and looked up at the third doorway, the one with the phantom flame. As soon as I stepped through the door, I was in an area illuminated by a strange light. The future's echoes drifted through the atmosphere, beckoning me to rise to the challenge of fate. The phantom flame represented the decision to move forward and face the unknown head-on with bravery and resolve. A ghostly blacksmith stood in front of me, the flickering flames dancing in the forge reflected in their eyes. The echoes described a decision that went beyond time itself. The decision to take control of one's destiny and welcome the blazes that shaped the way forward. I saw images of the future as I investigated the world of the ethereal flame. Times of success and suffering, difficulties and rewards. The whispers of the echoes spoke of a spark within that could endure the unknown's hardships. With a hushed focus, the ghostly blacksmith observed, sending a message of empowerment. The fires of fate could be used to mold the path ahead. But even as I welcomed the flames of fate, I felt a burden of obligation. The decisions that were ahead would have a lasting impact, and the fire cast a light on the uncertainties that lingered. The ghostly blacksmith's eyes were full of grave knowledge, a reminder that following one's destiny required humility as well as courage. I stood before the figure again, the past, present, and future vibrating within of me. A mysterious force surged through the symbols on the entrances, waiting for me to make a choice. The figure's eyes glowed with knowledge, and the room appeared to hum with the expectation of the decision that would determine my future. Motivated by a combination of fear and willpower, I turned to face the figure and said, "The phantom flame." The figure gave a subtle gesture of approval, and the room changed once more, the entrances disappearing into the ghostly realm's echoes. When I surfaced from the underground passage, the streets were drenched with rain, as the storm had diminished to a light mist. The city appeared to breathe a sigh of relief as the sounds of the forgotten persisted in the atmosphere. The mundane surroundings concealed the remarkable journey I had been on, and the weight of the decisions I had made and still needed to make sank inside of me. When I got back to my apartment, the delivery from the pizza place was there, a physical link to the real world I had briefly left behind. The note that had sparked this bizarre adventure was lying on the table, its ink dripping down the paper, as if it were a monument to the ageless riddles that linked the paranormal and the everyday. The feeling of worry lingered as I thought back on the crazy journey. The decisions made in the phantom realm reverberated in the back of my mind, and the phantom delivery had shown the weakness of the lines separating the known from the unknown. The images of the ancient key, whirling vortex, and ethereal flame continued to occupy my consciousness, serving as a constant reminder that life's journey took place through the past, present, and future. I could still hear the echoes of the forgotten as I confronted a new day. The mysteries of the phantom delivery had become a permanent part of my adventure, and the spectral realm had unveiled its mysteries. There was still a thin mist separating the forgotten from the living, waiting for the next hint of the otherworldly. The decisions that lay ahead carried a heavy weight of consequence. It was a typical night, with the cityscape shrouded in shadows behind the cover of darkness. The sound of rain beating against the window panes muffled out the outside world. My stomach growled, a satiated protest against the void inside. The idea of indulging in a late-night meal was alluring, so I made a choice that would bring to light an extraordinary story including mystery, intrigue, and an unexpected otherworldly encounter. I was browsing a food delivery app when I came across a recently found gem of a restaurant in my neighborhood that advertised itself as serving the best foods from a secret menu. I had to order because I was drawn to the idea of a midnight feast and the attraction of culinary adventure. My phone rang with the confirmation, and I curled up in front of the cozy screen to wait for my culinary delight. Excitement mixed with hunger as the projected delivery time drew near, and I heard the distant roar of a motorcycle outside my flat. The delivery showed up in an ordinary brown bag, with an intriguing and enigmatic scent filling the air. The delivery man, a shadowy figure in clothes soaked with rain, bowed gravely as I excitedly accepted the gift before vanishing into the night. The bag revealed a variety of containers, each containing a treat the contents of which were still a closely kept secret. I thoroughly enjoyed the encounter, relishing every morsel with a feeling of gustatory awe. But the feast's delight took an unexpected turn when I found a strange object tucked away among the containers. A tiny, elaborate key. Curious, I looked at the key. Its elaborate pattern alluded to a past that went beyond just gastronomic interest. There was a hint of mystery, and when I turned the key in my hands, my flat was silent, but for an unearthly murmur. It was a voice that seemed to come from beyond the confines of reality, a communication from somewhere beyond. The entrance to a world beyond the senses is unlocked by the key. A voice from beyond the void admonished me, follow the path it illuminates, but beware the shadows that lurk within. Scratching my spine, as I followed the curve of the key, fear and curiosity mixed. There was a choice ahead of them, to explore the mysteries hidden in the shadows or to take solace in the familiar. The rain outside grew heavier, a symphony of uncertainty reflecting the chaos inside. I was compelled for no apparent reason to get up from my chair and walk over to the door with the key clenched in my shaking fingers. The streets outside, drenched from the rain, appeared to beckon, inviting a voyage beyond the usual. I took a deep breath before turning the latch, and as the door creaked open, I saw that there was a passageway leading into the unknown. A hallway opened up in front of me, gloomy and festooned with symbols that gave off an unearthly vibe. I could smell strange spices filling the air as I descended, and I could hear faraway murmurs echoing through the corridors. The foodie experience had surpassed the commonplace and sent me on a thrilling and mysterious journey. The hallway opened into a large room with an ethereal radiance. A table topped with foods that were beyond creative description stood in the middle. My attention was pulled to the feast that awaited me by the symphony of flavors that called. But there were whispers from the shadows that hung over the chamber's boundaries, warning of an old covenant, a gastronomic bargain with unknowable ramifications. I took a seat at the table and began a culinary adventure that stretched the bounds of reality. The taste of each dish unveiled mysteries of long-forgotten lands and culinary customs, revealing themselves like chapters in a mysterious novel. A chorus of voices emerged from the darkness, whispering about an old feast connected to the paranormal. And the room appeared to bend and change during the feast, blending the lines between the remarkable and the commonplace. A spectral apparition emerged in front of me, the culinary guardian, a guardian of flavors whose presence held the key to the mysteries that would soon come to light. The shadows swirled with an unearthly force. You've arrived in the domain of the Midnight Feast, an elaborate feast that connects the worlds of the living and the dead. The culinary guardian declared, their eyes shining with a wisdom that went beyond the culinary arts. And to partake in this feast is to unlock the secrets that lie beyond the senses. Each course of the feast unveiled a new layer of the ghostly tapestry that engulfed me. The culinary guardian mentioned an old agreement that was made between otherworldly beings and foodies. The feast served as a conduit for the fusion of ethereal and mortal forces, and the key I was holding represented a doorway to the hidden realms. Lines between truth and fantasy seemed to blur as I immersed myself in the Midnight Feast. The taste turned into a portal to experiences outside the realm of the concrete, and the room became a strange dream world. My voyage was accompanied by the culinary guardian, whose speech had a strange rhythm. But every course left me feeling a little uneasy. The ghostly figure's warnings reverberated in the back of my mind as the whispering of the shadows got louder. The meal was more than just a treat for the senses. It was a doorway to a world where decisions had ramifications outside of the kitchen. One feeling of dread descended over me as the last course drew near. The culinary guardian's eyes glowered gravely, and the shadows that clung to the corners of the chamber appeared to dance menacingly together. The feast had evolved into an experiment in culinary curiosity, with an unknowable cost. The culinary guardian served an unusual dish, a mixture that had an unearthly quality. The flavors were a symphony of sensations beyond earthly conception, and the scent was incredibly potent. I took the first bite nervously, feeling the essence of the otherworldly passing through my senses. A rush of adrenaline shot through me as the flavors developed, a link to the otherworldly worlds, beyond the borders of the Midnight Feast. The room throbbed with a phantom light, and the culinary guardian's eyes glowed so brightly that it appeared to cut right through my skin. But with every mouthful after that, something changed. The murmurs of the shadows that lurked around the chamber's edges became more audible, creating a discordant melody that echoed throughout the bizarre dream world. The feast had turned into a communion with the unknown, and the implications of the culinary bargain were unfolding in front of me. The room shook as I took the last bite, and the ghostly figure's shape shifted like a mirage. A menacing chant resounded from the culinary guardian, To eat the midnight feast is to bind your essence to the supernatural. You have a choice, flavor seeker. I had to bear the repercussions of my food curiosity with a sorrowful heart. The shadows came together and surrounded me like a ghost. The chamber vanished, and I was left standing in the streets outside my apartment in the pouring rain, with the memory of the otherworldly feast still resonating. I still held the key, a physical reminder of the agreement made deep within the midnight feast. There was a sensation of quiet when the rain had stopped. The dinner had surpassed the usual, and the silence of the evening was resounding with the implications of my decisions. And with the key clenched in my fingers, I made my way back to my flat, but uncertainty hung over me. The culinary guardian's cautions reverberated in my mind, and the shadows from the ghostly room continued to lurk in the recesses of my awareness. The lines between the supernatural and the gastronomic had become hazy, and I was left with a story that defied comprehension. I could still feel the reverberations of the otherworldly feast as I faced a new day. The meal had become an enduring memory of my voyage, and the key stood as a mute testament to the agreement made in the otherworldly domains. The decisions that lied ahead would have a lasting impact, and the line separating the known from the unknowable would always be a thin one, ready to be crossed by the next rumor of the paranormal.